Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Incubator Podcast live at the CHNC Symposium in Denver, Colorado. Daphna, how are you?
I'm doing great. Man, we have had a busy morning.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of great interviews.
Yeah. And we have the pleasure of having on with us Dr. Michael Padula from CHOP. Michael, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what I want to ask. I want to start by talking to you about not your talk, but say what are the things that you have been enjoying at CHNC? Things are getting you excited about in the upcoming days left over.
Yeah, I mean it's been a great conference. I've been part of the CHNC since the start with Jackie, and it's been great to see how it's evolved and all the collaboration among all the groups. It's really fantastic. People get a lot of great ideas. And then I've also been really closely involved with a lot of not only sort of the database design part, but how we've been using the data for a lot of different investigations and research projects. A team of us Karna Murthy and Teresa Grover, and then our statistical team get together and been going through asking all sorts of great questions with the different focus groups, and it's been we do it probably 5 or 6 hours a week,
Wow.
But we've really been able to make good progress on a lot of different.
That's a big commitment.
I think what's so neat about that is people have different areas of expertise, not just clinical areas of focus, but other things that they bring to the table, areas of knowledge that, when working together across institutions, I think is super valuable.
Yeah, no, we've really, it's been terrific. Everyone has a lot of great ideas, and we see a lot of variation in sort of different experiences and what works for different groups, and so that's been fun.
And so the talk that you gave today is called "Why Not," or you gave yesterday. I'm sorry. Why not a CLABSI? Can you tell us a little bit about
what a provocative title? I like that.
Yeah,
because it's usually the other question we ask, why is it a CLABSI?
right. So we basically we looked very closely at our data and the NHSN definitions for. Central line-associated bloodstream infection.
Which is what CLABSI stands for, by the way. I failed to mention that.
No, it's good. We looked at all of our bloodstream infections during admission, and then applied all these different rules. So you exclude those in the first 2 days. You exclude all the commensal organisms. You exclude repeat infections, and then you are left with what they consider a lab-confirmed bloodstream infection, according to NHSN. And so we took all of those and said, all right, of those, which patients, or at the time of infection, did they have a central line present? Mm-hmm. And about 75% of those patients had a central line. And then we said, well, what percentage of those patients also were deemed to have a CLABSI at the respective institutions? And that was only about 40%. So then we dug through and looked. Yeah, it was.
That's not like our hospital.
No. So by the way, what's interesting is that just so people are clarifying, central line associated infection obviously means that you have an infection and concomitantly you have a central line, but also if there's a little time frame in which if you had a central line and you're diagnosed within a certain window after the central line even has been removed, it would still fall under the category of CLABSI. So I think that's important for people to be well, if there's no central line, why would you even consider that? But,
it's good, and there are a lot of very detailed rules, and it's quite a maze to work through, and we're doing our best to leverage the data we have in order to work through that.
So what have you found?
Well, we also went to look for if there was a secondary bloodstream infection, what were some of those primary causes, primary infections? And we actually have a field for this very indication in our data set. But we were still only able to explain probably another 20% of the infections.
And when you mean explaining, it means the patient's clinical picture could tell a story that involves other aspects of the body parts that are infected or something like that, and say, well, actually, this was not an isolated infection. This was part of a bigger thing, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah. So they could have had pneumonia or an intra-abdominal abscess. They could have had UTI preceding or at the time of the infection, and it could be attributed to that. And so we've been sort of digging hard to try and figure out all the possible reasons. So they could assignment, or we looked for another infection within a certain window, with actually a 17-day window and tried to associate. We haven't even excluded those that you could also do a higher level where you're looking for matching organisms and things like that. We haven't even gotten through all of that analysis yet, but even if we give people sort of the benefit of the doubt, there were a lot we couldn't explain.
And so how many friends did you lose in this process?
The interesting part is that that's for the CHNC at large, like all of our participating centers, but the variation from center to center was a lot. So, we had, some centers.
The variation in rates or the variation in definitions?
Well, so the definitions in theory should all be the same.
Theory, yeah.
But the way they're implemented, for example, some centers, might some centers call 60% of those eligible, 66% of those infections CLABSIs, and some centers only called 13% of theirs CLABSIs. And then when we looked at the proportion of the secondary BSIs, those also varied significantly. So
very interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see how. We're still working on the manuscript now, but it was exciting to share with this group.
And I was wondering, your kind of initial instinct for in taking on this subject, right? CLABSIs are a hot topic,
yes.
right? They are a benchmark. Hospitals care a lot about them. So what were you guys hoping to find? What was the underlying initiative for this investigation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, people do feel you're totally right that it's such a heavily leveraged metric for payment, for quality, for the rankings, and so we felt like. We were hoping to say, we'll do a deeper dive in those secondary bloodstream infection subtypes and understand how often people are calling pneumonia, how often they're coming skin infections or other things, to just sort of get a sense, was there variation there? But then we also, in doing that, found such a large, what we can call an unassigned cohort, where we really couldn't find a great reason. So that's been interesting to see, and there's a consideration that hospitals might move to a new metric with hospital onset bacteremia, which would sort of exclude the whole central line. But there was a JAMA Peds article this past summer which sort of looked at neonates with that, and so that's another sort of metric. We'll see how things shift.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if we're looking forward to that.
It's gonna ruffle some feathers. I'm always happy when we can sort of shake the nest a little bit and see what happens. But no, this is very cool. Thank you so much for sharing for sharing this. We're going to be looking out for this publication. I'm very eager to read it.
Cool.
And congratulations on this great work.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.